Administrative coordinator.
Got to unmute the audio, my bad. Jessica Backer, program manager. Mary.
Mary McGann, liaison for the county commission.
Jesus, muted.
You're muted, Mary.
Nope, she's
Oh, no, you're. Hello?
Hold on. I think her Bluetooth is on. We're connected to the Bluetooth. That's why we can't hear them.
Can you hear me?
Mary, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
And now, yep.
Okay, good. I could hear you from the beginning. Thank you.
Okay, citizens to be heard. I don't think anybody's here. Do we get any emails? None? Okay, so we're moving on to presentation, Kim.
All right, so thank you guys. I'm excited to let you guys know what's going on with the partnership between Seesaw and Log Solutions and what our mission is. So it just can breeze us through the slide presentation. Really, I've been in the industry for over 18 years, and what I've noticed is it's very difficult for rural communities, smaller areas, to be able to have access to recycling, because one, it's not feasible to do curbside collection in these areas. So looking at the drop site options and how can we promote that and move forward so that people can afford and be able to have that access. Go ahead and go to the next one. So the purpose, the project vision and mission of this is to connect and build a network with all the rural communities to promote recycling drop sites that are source separated, which in turn would come directly to the center here so that that could increase the amount of material that's being processed so that we could ship directly to mills. Because, you know, in the end, nobody makes money in recycling, but being able to get that material directly to the mill via separated instead of handling it twice or 3 times, 4 times, sending it to a MRF to be processed again. But yes, working with these rural communities to set up the drop sites, which we actually just set up the first one in Green River, and we'll be setting up the one in LaSalle next week, actually. So you can go to the next one. Just some of these statistics that I pulled from Recycling Partnership and DEQ. Utah actually is doing a good job. It's that you guys are so spread out, or that there's a lacking of being able to collect from these smaller spread out areas. So I know that there was a study done by DEQ on how you guys are doing and how we can increase that and improve that. And that is where this vision came from for the rural drop sites and the hub and spoke model. You can go to the next slide, just
Kim, can we ask questions, or do you want us to wait till the end? What works better for you?
whatever works. Go ahead and ask questions.
That 19%, how does that compare with other states, and how does our local recycling rate compare with that?
I don't know what you guys have local here, because I don't know about if there has been a lot of, you know,
I am working on consolidating all of the data, but there's so many different areas of diversion and the data isn't consistent in its measurement.
Yeah.
So the conversion rates are a little bit difficult, but it's a lot of data to go through.
It
It's taking me a
is.
hot minute.
And you'll see from the two columns that like the recycling partnership had some data that kind of conflicted with what DEQ was pulling. So it's, I don't think that it's standard, but as far as where Utah's at, for instance, Colorado's at a 13%,
Okay.
maybe 14. So I mean, you guys are 19%. That's pretty good. You know, 32 maybe is a national, you know, California and Oregon, 37%. So I wouldn't say that it's horrible, but yeah,
Okay.
we hope to increase that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so the financial part for these rural communities, they don't have the infrastructure, they don't have the equipment, a way to process, a way to bail. So the next best thing is to look at these drop sites where you collect in a super sack or any way to get it here to the mob, to the hub, which is what we're calling the recycle center is the hub. In the Milk Run route for a backhaul, for instance, we meet with the grain team from Price tomorrow. We're actually giving them a tour of the facility. Because if there's trucks that are running up to Salt Lake and you have an empty truck coming back, you know, can we work together and things like that way to reduce those costs on transportation and also minimize your carbon footprint? Because you don't want to, you know, be going back and forth and wasting. So, those networks are being developed and the outreach continues. I'm also looking at working with landing area. I've reached out to the university, some other options that it doesn't just have to be, oh, you know, it has to be a city organization, or it can be a nonprofit. It can be a multiple groups working together for the same goal. So and you'll see that a lot of the equipment that we're utilizing to set up these drop sites are refurbished or repurposed, like the super sacks or the cages that are used. So in a sense, we're also diverting that from the landfill, right? Or using it for these other communities that might not have access to these cages. I call them cages. I know they have a real name, but I don't know what it is. So that then the super sack will go right inside of that cage. Once those fill up, they can tie them off and then we can arrange for a pickup, or like I mentioned, if there's a backhaul coming down from Salt Lake, we can grab that from Green River or from Price, or, you know, down San Juan direction. If there's lanes coming through there that we can pick up those super sacks full of materials to get them here to the center to process, to send direct to the mill. I think we're all familiar with illegal dumping and what happens in that. The site in Green River is actually in a fenced-in surveillance kind of transfer station yard. So, and they have the public offices or equipment area there. So we've got 2 people monitoring. We also working with the epicenter, so they're volunteering. I went up there and did an educational thing at the Melon Days. And then we also did a town hall in LaSalle just to provide the education component, because I think that that's very important. But the illegal dumping, and when you move on to heavier materials like glass or paper, that's when the additional equipment comes in. So you're going to either need a forklift wherever the drop site is, or means to get that up on the truck. So right now we're just starting with the smaller ones that are manageable by hand, so that we can kind of gauge and see how this works, and then see if they want to move forward with adding additional materials such as glass and paper. So I think that currently we are continuing with our next steps and just researching, getting together with all of the other communities, getting feedback, interest. And really the goal is to increase the recycling throughout the whole corner down here, just to keep all of that material from going to the landfill. And I think if anybody has any other questions, there's a couple other things that, you know, I'm excited to be working with CSWA about, as far as we're doing the monthly meetings together now, which are called Green Gatherings, really giving the community an opportunity to come and ask questions and learn more about what is really happening to our recycling, what options what other options do we have available that people might not be aware of, such as the used oil, or what do we do with, you know, the strange, hard to recycle items, anything like that, keep it out of landfill and get it to its proper diversion places, so. I don't know if you guys have any questions, or?
With the hub and spoke, this is still the plan to be the hub. And then are there, I can't remember, are there costs to the district for? For being the hub?
Well, the benefit would be, so the issues that we have, like Tim had mentioned, is that like our source separated, we have a really clean material, but we
Right.
don't have enough material to send to the mills. So
Oh, I
right now, since 2023, I think is the last time we've been paid for our recycling materials. They're just, we send up mixed loads up to Salt Lake,
Right.
and that's their model, is they gather a whole bunch of rural things, so we're just kind of doing a smaller version of what they are. So obviously, if we're gonna be picking anything up, there'll be operational costs that would have to be considered. And any kind of initial, starting with light materials, so it's basically if we can, pull off these initial kind of pilot areas. But yeah, once again, the benefit would be then to get these quantities so that we can ship whole truckloads, and then we can actually get a revenue to offset that operational cost. So that's the ultimate goal. We have our single stream. I know if things work out, we might try to set up a sort line on the single stream so we can scalp off materials that
Right.
the more valuable ones, once again, adding to our quantities.
How did the meeting in LaSalle go? That wasn't happening yet? Or just-
There was 15 people there. I think they were excited. I mean, for LaSalle,
Oh, that's a good.
yeah. Excited, and it'll be over the same time as the transfer station, so Tuesday or Friday and Saturdays. So there is somebody there monitoring
Well-
or, trying to divert, make sure that there's no contamination in that. Yeah, there was actually a state representative.
County commissioner and state
Mhm.
representative.
Thanks.
All right.
And you said blending what does Monticello do with their recycling?
That's okay.
Well, and so actually, part of going up to the town hall at LaSalle, we partnered with Jed Kate from San Juan County. He's the
Okay.
district manager of San Juan County landfill down there. And he's kind of buying into this and trying to, so if it works at LaSalle, we've got other transfer stations that this will expand to, because that's technically kind of in his
Got it.
his jurisdiction. So we had discussions back and forth between him, and in fact, he's willing to kind of run everything to LaSalle. So if we were able to set up everything.
Trucks.
Yeah, because they have to go man it, so when they man it, they'll shuttle, if we can expand and set up more drop sites through their transfer stations, they can transfer all that material up there. And if this works out really well and we have a large quantity, his roll-offs hook up to our trucks. So we'll probably share the cost of a roll-off or something and just kind of, share the operational costs. And obviously, if there's some revenue that he's generated, the thinking is that, operational costs get paid first, and then wherever the commodities come from, that revenue would go back and help support the whatever drop-off locations or whatever infrastructure improvements or
That's great.
education.
Thanks.
Be nice to have pictures in the future of the drop off and Green River.
I do, I can put email, we took some pictures there, and then next week when we go out, we send some pictures of.
And the cages actually come from the wastewater reclamation facility. So they have a pretty, like a consistent supply of that. I've talked to Ovi down there, and they're, before they were just throwing them basically away, I was letting them put like the plastic part of it into our biosolids, taken out to the landfill, so kind of have a source of the cages. We have our welder fabricators trying to kind of tweak them a little bit to, make them work a little bit better.
And are we working on putting this on our Facebook and website just to help get the
I'm writing a note to
Yeah,
get those
okay.
pictures as well, so I can do that.
Sure.
Yeah, we did do the signage similar to, kind of mimicked everything that we've done at the center here, so that there's consistency. whether they're here or in Green River, or, you know, that they know that these are the acceptable materials. And I think that's one thing that recycling lacks, is a lot of people are confused, because you go to one state and it's like, oh, I can recycle this, but then you come here, they're like, no, we don't recycle that, so.
Right, or if they're visiting from Europe.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, it would be good to talk to the guide companies, to let them know that that's in Green River as well. They-
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
all the
that's a
beer
great
cans.
Yeah, there's good money in aluminum.
And any storage considerations at, I guess, the recycling center has plenty of space now, if it's kind of been cleared out, or.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too concerned about storage. I mean, there's like kind of thinking towards the future. I've considered trying to consolidate a lot of the operations. And if we can consolidate the processing, move it from the recycle center now and have that just be a drop-off center, and move the processing here, then we can utilize the building next door to have an inside storage for the materials that need to be, last longer on the inside. I mean, the goal would be kind of like how we run the cardboard, where we ship it off often enough that with some of the commodities, that's not gonna be possible, sure. Like right now, I don't know if you've seen over at the recycle center, we have quite a stack of aluminum and tin growing over there. So which is,
That's because of prices, or why?
no, we're just saving for a truckload. This was our
Okay.
first, because we were shipping all that stuff up to IWP.
Got it.
And we weren't getting anything.
Okay.
And, there was estimates of $20,000 for a truckload of aluminum, so that's what we're kind of working on, engaging it. The other thing we're gonna do too is we have our single stream drop off here. Over the next week or two, we're gonna have a source separated drop off right next to it, just to encourage, people to, think there's another option.
Great.
I know the operators, when they have downtime, they've been pulling out cans and cardboard out of those single stream. And we have noticed a little bit of increase in quantities, because we'll fill it up here and then take it up there to bail. So we've been making bells a little bit quicker. But all this little kind of adds bigger. I know there was another big one that we talked about, and I know Kim's kind of waiting to do a waste characterization studies in national parks and stuff. They used to have a lot more robust recycling program. Now I know, like Arches just has a big single stream dumpster. I mean, I've seen when they come to the drop-off center to drop off their recycling. I think the one down in Needles, or they must have had their trailer down there for a year. They had to get in there with a pry bar and pry out some of the recycling commodities. So I know that, I think there was kind of a bigger push in the past, and it's kind of dropped off a little bit. But if we can make things easier, that's the
key,
common thing in recycling. If you make it easy, then people will do it.
Yes. Great.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you.
Good to see you.
Okay, moving on to the approval of minutes.
I move to approve the minutes as presented for September 17th, 2025 meeting.
I'll second.
Thanks, LJ. Thanks, Ashley. Any questions, any comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moving on to C, review and approval of September 2025 financials.
Yeah, overall, September expenses were less than August, and August was lower with July, which is how things were invoiced. Payroll account expenses were $248,105.64. So it's on par with a normal month that has 2 paydays. There are 2 months twice a year with 3 paydays. October will be one of those, so we'll see that next month at the board meeting. We currently have 34 employees of the district, so we transitioned 4 temps to W-2 employees this month. And let's see, but we still have 4 temps through Elwood. let's see, operation expenses were $192,669.11, which was only about 20,000 more than August. We did have about 20,000 paid to Wheeler Cat for rentals, service and parts. And then just kind of out of the ordinary, there was a quarterly payment for the household hazardous waste pickup to Veolia. Let's see, just in that month for the compost grant, I know Jessica will talk about this, but just in September, we paid just under $13,000 for the concrete pad and road base up at the Moore landfill. And then, let's see. We did receive the invoice for the interest payment for the bond, which is due in November. So that was just in the checklist that LJ and Colin signed. And let's see, so the total expenditures came to $691,605.25.
I just had a quick question about the balance in the PTF.
Yeah, I think it's like 1.2 million right now. And I did send, on the 3rd of October, there was a check for $170,000.
Yeah, I saw.
Okay,
To that for the payment.
It would be before, and that the interest payment is just under 127,000. So,
do we have any other questions? Mary, any questions?
No, thank you.
It's next month, and it's
Yeah.
about 127. We have about 1 point whatever in there.
yeah, I can pull up the
It's-
balance. I
it's
think
fine.
it's gonna be after the 170 is deposit, I think it'll be close to 1.4. So, yeah, and then Nick could correct me, is it May? But then it's like 800 and something thousand.
Makes a big payment.
Thanks for the reminder, because I get those 2 months. I'll make a motion to approve the expenditures for the month of September in the amount of $691,605.25.
Thanks, Ashley. I second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thanks, Lily. Moving on to staff reports, Chris.
Okay, I'm gonna try to keep this to, basically as it relates to budget. I know we're kind of going into budget season. We've been working with Nick, hopefully Nick still likes me. I've just been throwing all kinds of things. It's basically a wish list and then try to, over the next, couple months as we go into December, trying to figure out, kind of what the reality is gonna be versus, what the conceptual idea of, what next year will bring. I know last year I tried to pair the budget with kind of an operations plan. I think I had trouble trying to communicate that, so I'm gonna task Jessica to help me this year, and she's come up with a name that we're gonna call it
Strategic management plan.
instead of an operations plan. So basically, here's the money and this is why and where we're gonna spend it. That way, it's okay, give the board an idea of the direction that we want to take next year. And, that way, if there's, questions or anything, hopefully we can communicate what's going on. So I'm just gonna kind of go down to facilities and kind of throw out some of the things that I'm hoping to do at the end of this year and into next year. Probably as soon as I get back, we've vetted a couple different IT. I started with maybe trying to hire like an IT specialist person. We've kind of moved on to where we're probably going to hire a company, and then that company will, as they help us with some initial projects like transferring to .gov, getting our website, getting all of our servers in line, going through and making sure everything's kind of in more of a conformed system. I mean, we've just patched things together since the purchase of Monument Waste, and I think just to make things more efficient and flow. The other thing is not, anything really against TJ Computers. I mean, they help us kind of set up where we're at, but the couple of companies that we've identified are local, and I think could give us better support. We had a group training next year. I really want to invest into a lot of the employees here that, that look like are going to be long-term, and trying to give them training. And, you know, we're in that heavily regulated government industry, nothing we do here is simple. And the more people here that understand what's going on, so, you know, working with Nick and Lily, trying to, see what kind of, training and, you know, what training we can afford. The other thing that I would really like to do is, and I know Lily's worked quite a bit on this. I don't know if you were going to touch on this, but I know when I was first hired here, insurance was paid 100%. I think that's a huge benefit. And when you're sitting down, so like the future of the district, I think is going to be made more sustainable by attracting better people and having those people trained to what they want to do. Obviously, there's a realistic filter that has to go through it. So what we've kind of worked up, well, Lily's kind of worked up the math on this, is that we're going to offer next year to cover everyone's benefits for the single payer, and then as if they have families, then that's when they'll pay, or partners, and they'll pay on top of that.
I think we have an agenda item for that, so.
Oh, yes, you're right. Sorry, I have that. Yeah, well, I'm trying to, this was the high end stuff. I made the list before the agenda, so we'll wait to go into that. So,
Okay.
The other thing that I've kind of talked to Nick about, I want to move recycling the single stream collection out of the garbage collection route and put it under the bucket of, basically, we're going to have a recycling line item rather than kind of like the CRC. I mean, we still want to capture our operational costs and stuff, but I think it just makes more sense. I've obviously invested some time and some finances into recycling. I'm really excited about the possibilities of it, but we also have to be realistic. And I think by just putting it all into one bucket, because another source of revenue is the collection arms. And I just think that, if we're going to set up, we talked about doing maybe different pilot programs with collections, we want to be able to gauge the revenues versus, the operational costs. The other thing I've talked to Nick about on an administrative level is I want to break out, and I want to be careful because I don't want to lose how Nick has things set up as far as the intercompany revenues go. But I think when we're on the front end, when we're showing the public, I think that intercompany revenue inflates our overall, because if we're looking at, our gross revenue is 10 million, it's really not 10 million. It's closer to 7 million, but those transactions are because of the intercompany revenue. That's a huge tool that we absolutely need, because our finances went from collecting fees at the landfills to the front end on the collection. So really, that's one of the ways we can budget our landfills and stuff without actually receiving any revenue, is this intercompany. So it's important to keep in there, but then trying to task Nick on how to, in public facing, like one of the instances that just came up recently is we stopped paying our dues to the Utah Association of Special Districts. Well, those dues are based upon our revenues. So we don't want to put out, like kind of an inflated revenue. We want to put out our actual revenues. And that's kind of a small example, but, dealing with the county, if the county thinks that, we're at 10 million, we're really not. I mean, there's, well, once again, I mean, that's still an important component, because, the stream that, or in all the different facilities that this track flows through, we need to be able to recognize and identify, the cost associated to that. The other thing I would like to do is isolate kind of the admin. Like right now, we run all of our supervisors, all the CSRs, they're all funneled under admin. And just coming from my background being in operations, you always have to be careful when you overload admin compared to the money that's invested in operations. And to me, I don't think CSRs are fit. They're more of an expense. They're more of an operational cost. And I think that they need to start going. So we're going to look at kind of reorganize the structure as far as admin costs and stuff. Next year garbage collection, and we're obviously after another rear load. That being said, apparently our truck is on the way back and we're gonna put it next week into route. If we can get it to run good for a week, then we'll clean up one of our rental trucks and send them back. As far as the rental trucks, as soon as, basically, probably when we stop doing Sunday service, I'll return both rentals and then we'll look at, with what operations are gonna be like next year if we need to get another rental. My hopes is that this truck works out. The issues we've had, that the dealership has been, pretty good on dealing with it. And, if that situation works out, they have another slot. So we want to, purchase another rear load so that next year we don't have to do those rentals. Based off on the $16,000 a month that we spend in rentals, versus the, just under $4,000 a month for, the purchase alone. That being said, we still want to build our replacement schedule into our, not just next year's budget, but moving forward. So we know that we're buying one truck, and two trucks the next year, one truck. I mean, that should be laid out so that it's not a surprise every year. And, I'm not coming to the board and asking for all this stuff. And it just seems like random asks. Obviously in roll-off, we know we need to deal with our roll-off issues. We've already went over that quite a bit, and next year I'm hoping to get another roll-off truck. Transfer station. So I've been working with Forsgren engineering firm. They are really close to getting some conceptual site plans and stuff. As far as, and I know that the county's going through a lot of changes, but I've been 8 months trying to move a fence 100 feet. And this is a huge concern. I mean, we can be doing everything right, and we can be sitting here in 3 years and have done everything right and completely failed the community. If we can't make progress on what's going to happen when Moab closes. And I went to the board when the previous executive director was here, and that was almost 2 years ago that we started bringing up these concerns. So that's 2 years. In fact, I'm going to move on to Moab, and I'll come back to the transfer station. So Moab, right now, we have the biggest area that we're going to have. Everything from this point now, because of the slopes, it's going to get smaller and smaller. So our working area from this point forward is going to get smaller and smaller. I know I brought up to the board the possibility of maybe getting a compactor to help increase our compaction, so to extend the end date for closure of Moab. And that's still, I have a facility supervisor over the next month, as we've identified 4 different compactors. We're going to shop around and make sure that, once again, it's not about just the machine, it's about the service that we can get on the machine. And I've said it before, we can have the best machine and something little goes down. If we can't get people out for 2 weeks, I mean, it's just bad things happen. I mean, it's hard to even quantify how much money we lose when we can't get our compaction rates up. But the other consideration, since I started working here, I've always felt that there was a crossroads. One of it would be to close Moab landfill. I still think that makes sense, just given its location, given the road that's going up there. We're fighting, I've said this before, with the recreation and now residents up there. I still think it makes sense. But I also don't want to sit here and be complacent and, miss opportunities. There is no future that we're just going to get the money to be able to build a huge, fancy new thing. This is going to have to come in stages, and we're going to have to slowly build up to it. And we're losing time to try to build up to that. So the other thing that I'm going to be looking at is machinery that will be able to divert, because I mentioned the crossroads. The other option there, rather than close Moab, is I can keep Moab open indefinitely. I have been identifying some shredders, concrete grinders, and I can just take everything that comes into Moab and either utilize it for material purposes for infrastructure, alternative daily covers, and I can divert and I can just keep Moab open.
Hmm.
So,
Those are gonna come in the cost.
they're about the same price as a compactor. It's about, it's just under $1 million for a shredder. I think like a concrete, crusher is, I've been pricing them, ones that have good reputations, about three to $400,000 is the ones. We don't need anything that big, because if we can manage the material as it comes in, we don't have huge quantities. Right now, we have a huge quantity, and that may be, I mean, and this is where, you know, we'll go out and we'll get estimates on whether third parties can kind of come in and get us caught up. But the other consideration that would happen there is if once the county can start working with the district on trying to you know, accomplish the closure, because there's gonna be multiple government agencies are gonna be involved in this. I mean, the instant that I let UDOT know that there's a potential for them to close, or we're gonna have to do traffic studies, and UDOT's gonna have to be involved in how we're gonna be running the traffic down here. But those same machines that would help mitigate and keep Moab open would also help us manage the streams as they come down here. Because the thing that we're not gonna be able to handle here without some type of infrastructure is things like concrete, is things like mass C&D. So,
Chris, what would that look like, the material management as it came up to Moab?
we would just set, we would have, so right now we run 2 operators up there. We struggle trying to keep that second, or one person's at the gatehouse attendant, and they have to stay there.
Yeah.
The other one is the operator that manages the working face and the floor, and we struggle because it's like a 1.5 is the amount of people that it takes up there. So, you know, trying to keep them busy. So we would have an operator up there, and they would just direct things into different piles. We would segregate it as things come in, the same way we do green waste, the same way we do concrete now, the same way we do asphalt. We would just expand it. And right now, where we're at the widest part, where we're gonna be, now is the time to start to try to do something like that. The other thing I would think, so the other thing that I'm getting involved with the county, and I don't mean to sit and you know, kind of pick on the county, but right next door, I mean, literally right next door, I could throw a rock and hit, there's a brownfield. And I know that the county did a study on it, and I've talked to the engineering firm that did our permit. Oh, by the way, the permit's been submitted. I don't know if I mentioned that last time, so we're just waiting on approval from the DEQ on the approval for our permit. But the engineering firm has done a look at the and I can't remember what environmental study they did. I almost think it was a phase 3. But I have the documentation. I send that over to the engineering firm, and they think that it's a completely viable option to move that material into Moab landfill. That's probably close to, it's about 10% of the remaining landfill, but we would get all that revenue. Obviously, we would have to spend the operational cost to be able to do that. But all that material would not have to hit any public road. It can go right in there. And it would be kind of like a whole bunch of revenue at one time. Like if, you know, for example, when they tore down the middle school, you know, a lot of material at one time, we could prep for it. And it would be kind of a huge windfall that would help finance a lot of these different things that we need. Because obviously, like he had mentioned, all this stuff costs money. Managing waste costs money. So, and that kind of being said, I think that if the county and the certain players that are behind some of the decision making up there know that there is an option that Moab landfill, and I can just keep it open, I think they might be motivated to come to the table and talk about the closures sooner than later either. Obviously, this can't be a threat because we're going to be investing a lot of materials, and once we cross that point, I mean, we're going to need to keep it open long enough to be able to justify spending that kind of money.
Sure, but those, a huge financial benefit for both the county and the city, right, for keeping it open?
In my mind, and
Yeah.
I might be missing some things, and I have
Yeah.
seen some plans of developers and their ideas of what they think they're gonna going on up there. I don't know if they fully understand exactly what they're dealing with.
What's under there,
I
yeah.
mean, there has been 2 lawsuits that I'm aware of. And I'm not sure exactly, but they were about the Moab landfill and the materials that are contained in the landfill. So if they're delaying this, thinking that there's some kind of development going in there, I mean, they are a lot smarter than I am. Because I don't see how that would ever be a viable option. There might be some areas around there. And I think that we could even help support them, like in that brownfield. That might be, an area that they could develop. I'm not sure. I mean, really, that's not the solid waste
Yeah,
place to
yeah.
try to get into the politics like that, but
Yeah.
this just goes back to the fact that we have to make these decisions, or we're just gonna come to a point that, I'm not even sure what the option would be, because we can't just close Moab landfill. And be expect to handle it here.
Right.
And that's definitely not an option. So obviously, we're working with Nick, and this will be brought, and as we start to get more concrete ideas. The other thing that might make sense too is if we are gonna think Moab landfill and try to keep it open longer, then perhaps we invest in a scale up there. Then we can, because we've obviously identified that's an issue with how the community deals with us. And I think, did I bring this up last time about the scale? So in dealing with this forestry and engineering, I think it was up in Wayne County, they have a similar setup where they were pulling tape over C&D materials. Same issue, people are upset, they come one day, it's this price, another day, it's this price. They put a scale in there and their revenues actually increased $1 million.
Wow.
And we can't tell, we have no real data, we have our measurements, and I use conversion factors when I turn in the reports to the DEQ, but they're all speculative depending on the operator that's pulling the tape. And obviously with a scale, you also get to measure densities, and you can start to understand, compactions of the different materials, and it just gives you a better gauge of what's going on there.
Yeah.
And I know these are big concepts, but this isn't something that's going away. I mean, this is something that we're gonna have to deal with, and I think it's one of those impending things. And the longer that we put it off, it's the more expensive it's gonna be to be able to deal with it. And I think the less structured and systematic is, if we're really trying to do our best to serve the community here, we should have a 30-year plan. And I know I've mentioned this before for the transfer stations, 10-year plans for the landfills. And if you're not planning on that, anyone in the industry will just shake their head at you, because you're in for, on the unpredictability of the waste streams. So, and really, and that's, kind of comes back to the transfer station where they're tied together. Obviously, that's why we leased the land, next door. I'm gonna earmark some of the funds that we're putting away, towards our bond to be going towards some type of, scenario where we got some skin in the game when it comes down to, obviously, the district is not gonna be able to just fork out whatever the price is gonna be. I use the number about 3.5 million. I know that it had an appraisal a while ago for 3 million. You figure top floor, that's where I come up with the 3.5 million. We're not gonna be able to just pull that out without trying to get some type of partnership going. I've had some preliminary discussions about putting this, changing, because I know we're on the CID list for a couple of trucks. I think it would make sense that, if we can't afford our own trucks, we probably shouldn't be asking for loans from the state, honestly. I think this is more fitting to try to get into under the CID.
Yep.
The other thing that I have is, I know we have an open board seat. I just want to bring up where I brought up in the past. I think it might be beneficial. I'm not like 100% behind this, but I'm just still considering perhaps, giving a seat to the Southeastern Health Department. There's so much, work that we do together. I think this would give them kind of an inside look at what we're doing here, and it also affords us a voice up north. Basically, you know, their directors out of Price, and they deal directly with the DEQ, where we don't necessarily deal with that. So just another idea. I know that space is going to be coming up here. What, December? Is that
In January.
in January?
Would they be able to apply and
Quick question.
they live in the jurisdiction? Do we
Well,
need
I
to
think that
just-
for me, yeah, I mean, because it's open to anyone, so obviously a person could apply, and one of them could apply, especially if it was at large. I guess my concept was more that they would have a seat at the board, even if it was like a non-voting seat, like an advisory seat. Then it can be filled with, you know, that way there's not a commitment there of a single individual, and I think that would afford a little bit more. You know, where a person's gonna have an agenda. Obviously, the health department has its own agenda, but I just think it'd be a broader agenda. Does that make sense what I'm trying to explain?
Would outlast the individual too.
Yeah, and it would, yes.
Yeah, the more
Yeah.
seat for that organization,
Yeah.
then they leave.
And I honestly, I don't know, you know, there's a lot of flexibility when it comes to the solid waste district, so I haven't ran across anything that would restrict us from doing that, but I haven't seen anything that has been like that necessarily. I think the county may have tried to, but I think that they put an individual rather than trying to make it a county seat. But I know, Lily's going up to some training. I'm gonna be engaging. I had a conversation with LeGrand Bitter, who runs the Utah Association of Special Districts. We had a great conversation, very eye-opening conversation, actually. Even back when we first started talking about doing our bylaws, we were just flooded with all kinds of hearsay. Everyone has an opinion on how we should be doing our bylaws. Well, I think that it would be a huge source for us and a benefit to kind of get out, you know, from our peers and understand, you know, what the legal structures of special districts. I know that we've talked about possibility of moving to just a district rather than a special service district, which basically expands our jurisdiction. But these are broader things. Sorry, I'm starting to go down a rabbit hole here. The other easy to do around here. The other thing that I've been kind of watching the county board meetings lately, and I know that they've hired a new auditor, and they're talking about having their component units go under their auditor. Our auditor, we're actually in contract with till the end of next year. I did speak with our auditor, and they are going to try to meet the county's deadline this year. I mean, I made it pretty simple that has to happen.
Yeah.
Obviously, some of it falls, the burden of that, so a lot of it falls on us to be able to get our end of year dialed in, and we'll do whatever we need to in December to try to make sure everything's dialed in and give Nick what he needs to be able to kind of finish things up so that we have the information ready for the auditors. The only other thing that I'm thinking of next year is I know that, you know, when I took this position, I knew I had a steep learning curve when it came to a lot of the administrative functions that this role, because we tried to incorporate, you know, my previous position, the administrative director and the executive director's position. And I think that I might be able to better serve kind of more that administrative function if we can afford an administrative assistant to help me kind of organize my days, because unfortunately I show up with the best intentions and then all of a sudden it's 5 o'clock and I don't want to, you know, I really want to set this position up so that, you know, people that follow me here, you know, this is just a normal position. This isn't expected to work 50, 60 hours a week. We should be able to get this done obviously, once again, this all is gonna be determined by our budget for next year, and I'm not gonna force it because, I mean, we have great people, great staff here and everything, but I just think it might, benefit, my position if we could afford something.
Chris, if I think that I can speak for the board, that if, it works out budgetarily, we would love to get you all the support you need, yeah.
And I think
Go home
just,
sometimes.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Cause yeah, mental health is important and,
Yeah,
you know, thinking
Sleep
forward
helps
like
out, too.
this. And I mean, and I think where I might be able to pull those resources with staff I have. I think that having an assistant that doesn't have like a separate agenda would be very important in trying to keep position that I'm trying to do here separate from anything, because I like the agendas that people have.
yeah.
Like they have their roles and their functions, and there's separation in roles for a reason. And I think like an administrative assistant, you know, that would be part of one of the defining things is they, you know, their agenda would be my agenda and helping me keep my agenda rather than getting kind of sucked into the day-to-day functions that the district has. Cause like I said, you know, once again, I show up here and then just move from one crisis to another.
Yeah,
And I feel like if I'm lacking, if I were to judge myself, that's where I have a weakness over the last year, is just trying to keep focused on the agendas that I think that benefit the district as a whole. And that's all I got. Sorry, that was a little longer. I know we're going into budget season, so I'm just prepping you guys for longer meetings.
yeah. So, Chris, a couple of thoughts for me. One, I hadn't even considered CIB, what a great pairing, I think, with, and I think both the city and the county would be excited to support that. But perfect use for community impact board. So it's oil and gas money revenue.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so I paid for Cane Creek, it pays for lots of big projects, big infrastructure projects, and I mean, this would be an incredible.
And I think
Yeah,
we've kind of held a place on there since I've been here. And I don't think we've had a real direction, or we haven't really shown a need where I think that there's an absolute need
100%, yeah.
in serving the community. So I think that our story behind trying to get us on the CIB board and trying to fill that out, it makes total sense.
so much more attractive than a couple of trucks.
Yeah.
Yep. And then the other thing I just want to say is, it never ceases to amaze me, Chris, how amazingly you are constantly thinking about improving every single system in this organization. I mean, it's mind blowing to me. Like I can't even imagine.
Well, thanks for that.
Yeah, it's, you know, I'm not articulating that well, but it just, I mean, every single one of your reports goes so over time because you have so many irons in every single fire, and you look at every single system in this place and you can see ways to improve it, and you're constantly thinking about that. I mean, it's, we have absolutely the right person sitting in that seat.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah, blows me away.
And I think an administrative assistant would be super helpful for you.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I sympathize with showing up, and you got that greatest intention, and at the end of the day, you look back and say, what did I even do?
Yeah, Ashley could probably appreciate it.
I work all day and I feel like I've done nothing.
So I hope that that's in the budget this year. If anything else, I really hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's all I got. Thanks, Paul, for the vote of confidence.
You bet. Okay, Lily.
Well, an update, I guess I'm like stuck in January. We actually have, just under like 2.2 million in the bank, in the PTIF. We have $2,068,818.
Does that include the closure fund? Or is that
No,
separate? Okay,
this
I
is
just wanted to double check,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
okay.
just that, just the amount for the bond, sorry,
Yeah.
that one account. So after the interest payment of 200 and something, we're we're good. We have some money set aside. So I apologize. I didn't have that in my brain.
No,
Let's see, we had Jill, our HR partner, here last week for some trainings. I think they were well received. I think she did a great job for the all employee training. It was really engaging and people participated much more than I thought they would, which is nice to see. And the manager training really dived into best practices for managing people, which is something I think no one's born knowing how to do this. And the more we can train the managers, the easier it'll get, which will tie in nicely with upcoming staff reviews that we're hoping to get done before November. I've really just been prepping for the budget, doing like spreadsheets, the handbook, kind of an update on that. Chris is taking it with him to read on the plane, so he has some numbers to look at our current and then the proposed changes. And we've been in touch with the law firm that made edits, and once Chris has kind of blessed this version, because we made a few more edits than their recommendations, they'll review it again for compliance, which will be good. Yeah, as Chris said, Castle Valley asked until September to find a Castle Valley citizen to fill the vacancy that we'll have, and they have not found anyone. So I know Mary had talked about amending the bylaws. I don't know if we want to like piecemeal it or look at just kind of reaching out to the health department. I know Chris touched on that. We posted for the IT contractor and now recycling specialist up at the CRC. And I just sent Danny 5 resumes to review that we received more than that, but I had done phone screenings, and so it's kind of exciting to look at adding new staff. We've also, Chris touched on this in the last meeting. We've been looking at different software options outside of the AMCS. That's taken up a bunch of time. I don't know how much farther along we are. Savannah even told me today in Teams, I think she'd be okay with me quoting this, that the situation we're in right now with AMCS is 1,000 times better than where we were with TerraTrash. While it's still not ideal and has a long way to improve, we don't want to go backwards. And some of these softwares would be more akin to TerraTrash.
And we've been hitting them quite a bit. I mean,
We've done quite a few demos.
and we're not gonna stop on that.
Oh, with
Just-
AMCS.
No, just be, yeah, so, there for a while, so sorry to interrupt. We're so frustrated, we were gonna go out for procurement process again. And then I call it the MCS false hope, they give us like, oh, this works again.
Yeah.
And then we stop this searching, and then we go back, and then they prove their, unworth again. But yeah, I mean, I think things are way better, but we have been like, I don't know, we've gone at least through 4 or 5 demo sit downs, and I think that we're way better off because we know the questions to ask now.
Right.
Like when we were first
Yes.
doing this, yeah, wow, that sounds great. Now,
Yeah.
Savannah and Lily, they know now, it has to do this. It has to do this.
Yes.
So we were able to also disqualify them a lot quicker as well too.
Nice.
So I think the process is streamlined.
And then Savannah has just been invaluable with this because I'm not in it day to day, but she is, and she knows the routing side. I don't know that. So huge props to her. We did get a surprise email yesterday. We have I thought we had a new project manager with AMCS, and I was like this is what, number 6, but instead she's just there for specific questions on so I'm like, oh, I'm so glad you gave this to us 4 years in. I don't know. Chris mentioned we were looking at having me attend the Utah Association of Special Districts Convention in early November up in Layton. And so I don't get to travel very much. I'm scenic Layton now. Maybe I'll
Yeah, it sounds like a wild time.
it is open to board members if anyone wants to come to Layton. That's all I got.
Awesome. Any questions for Lily? Okay, thank you. Jessica.
I had typed up a staff report, but it's not in the board packet.
Oh, shoot, Jimmy.
No, I got it.
It was so out of the ordinary. I didn't know if I should put it in the board packet. We just haven't really done this before. I'm sorry.
I just figured it would be easier than because as you can see, it's quite a bit. How do I do this? So as Chris stated, I've been developing the strategic management plan. This has been a long time in the making, and it's going to be helping summarize the overall infrastructure investments, program developments, and essentially CSWA's or Chris's vision for the future of the district in both the short and long term. And we had a really good conversation about how that was going to be developed, because I think when we first started talking about it, it was kind of like, you know, we want this, we want this, we want this, we want this. And then when I started looking at it, I was like, that sounds like 3 separate plans. So came up with the strategic management plan. So I'll touch briefly on the pilot compost program, because I did, as the board had requested the last evening or the last meeting, an update. So I'll pass these out here in a second. But the composter is tentatively scheduled for delivery this week. I just spoke to one of the distributors this morning, and it sounds like it might be a little bit more of a delay. They'll get back with me. So in anticipation of this, I have focused on producing a comprehensive operations plan, as well as a press and media kit to ensure that the program launches with clarity, compliance, and public visibility. Chris and I are also registered to attend a 5-day compost operations management training in Fort Collins this November. This particular training is a combination of technical data workshops and hands-on training at an agricultural facility, and is recognized by the U.S. Composting Council as a comprehensive enough training that as long as you do that, plus you take the test, you can become a certified compost professional and compost operations manager. And also we have joined the U.S. Composting Council as a bronze member level, which will be expanding our access to national expertise and reinforcing our commitment to best practices in organics management. Externally, I represented the district at the Recycling Coalition of Utah. For those who don't know, I'm a board member of the coalition, which is helping shape the agenda for the upcoming fall conference on November 7th at the South Utah Valley Dry Creek Transfer Station. Very nice, brand new facility. I want to say it was like over $20 million. It's huge. It's a massive facility. It's like a warehouse. And registration is open for the fall conference, so y'all are invited to attend, if I'm allowed to say that. Let's see. We also attended, me and Chris, the inaugural green gatherings that was done in collaboration with Moab Solutions, which is held the first Wednesday of each month to engage the community, to foster sustainability conversations and partnerships. While the initial turnout was modest, this will establish a pattern for the community and encourage transparency and kind of let them know like the direction that we're trying to go. Like, we're not just people who pick up your trash, we have other goals. Let's see. In education and professional development, I completed my annual House Whopper 8-hour refresher, gained access to the UDOT learning portal for the environmental control supervisor training, which is, after talking with UDOT, is a position that is valuable to compliance with our stormwater permit. So you can't test stormwater without this sort of training. And then we'll also soon renew my records officer certification through the GRAMA and RIM, which is records. I forgot what the I stands for, management essentials training. And I've also enrolled in 2 upcoming federal and communications training, EPA grants competition process, and understanding accessibility in social media to expand my capacity in grant acquisition and equitable outreach practices. I have checked the status of our grants, and right now there is no movement, which is not really surprising. And looking ahead, I am working on expanding our social media footprint to include Instagram and possibly X, formerly Twitter, with the goal of broadening public awareness and engagement, because not everybody uses Facebook. And I'm also finalizing a project concept for the submission to the used oil block grant program, which will strengthen long-term sustainability of our used oil collection operations. And then finally, preparations are nearing completion for the fall 2025 voucher program, which is scheduled for November 3rd through the 15th. And as of today, everything is live. And I am about to submit artwork for advertisements. Oh, and we also did a radio ad that talks about it too.
I did hear.
So, yeah, I've been up to a lot.
You've done good.
Does the original composting grant, does that cover things like the training?
It does.
It does,
Yeah.
great.
So, this is.
Oh, I got it.
Oh, yeah, okay, I did give you one. This is basically just kind of recounting what I said. And then also just providing, next moves. So I just highlighted the key things that we've already done, what we need to do next, and just kind of some fun little artwork that I designed that I thought would be kind of cute to get people engaged, like, because everybody loves a sticker.
Yeah.
So I figured if you're utilizing the program or you're in support of the program, a sticker.
I think people are really excited about this. Everybody I talked to is really excited about this. Yeah. Posting program.
Looks
Thank
great.
Okay, any questions for Jessica? Okay, Nick, you're up.
Great, yeah, continuing to monitor our actual versus budget status, and we're still right there and about the $200,000 under budget currently for our various expense categories, operational expenses, debt service, and capital items. So we're still pretty much on track with that. Again, we'll keep looking at that for each month that goes by through the end of the year or through November and see where we are, but I think we're still on track to not need an amended budget at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so working on the budget, and that's one of the discussion items later, but in depth getting into all the nuts and bolts of the budget, capital items, the labor cost, which is the majority of the budget costs or the P&L costs is labor components, wages and benefits and taxes. So looking at that, I got the information from Lily and Chris on staffing. So I'm populating those fields and see how that shakes out in terms of some of the initiatives that the district wants to do in terms of the benefits. Populating the capital items in there and the related either debt service or related topics to capital. So the budget will probably mirror last year's budget, but it obviously it'll be higher. But for right now, just digging into that and getting those schedules filled out. The way the budget is, I do the budget, it's pretty much a granular level. So we're looking at all the cost centers and all the lines within each cost center. Then it aggregates up to a district level summation. So it gives us a lot of detail to be able to fine tune certain categories as we look at it and make some adjustments. So that's what I have for now.
Nick, I know you said costs are up, but do you feel like you have a little more wiggle room this cycle?
Yeah, I think we do. With the price increases that the district did over the last couple of years, those allow us to have the revenue coming in to fund the PTIF on a regular basis. And what the district is wanting to do is have pretty much a year's worth of bond service set aside in that account, and I think we're on our way to accomplishing that.
What is that figure, a year's worth?
It's just under it's right around 900,000.
How much longer do we have on that?
What's that? How much
How much
longer?
longer do we have on that bond?
It was an 18-year bond, so that was 2021. So 2039. Each year, the interest component drops a little bit, so it'll the necessary amounts for each year, it'll hover around that $900,000 mark, then and come down a little bit.
Yeah, I just couldn't remember if it was 15 or 20, so.
Yeah, 18.
Did you say 2039?
Yeah.
Thought it was 2038. Well, the party.
Your trips are in.
Right.
Yeah, right in there.
Okay, any questions for Nick? Nick, thank you.
Yes,
Yeah, thanks for all the work you're doing for the next couple months.
you're welcome.
Okay, moving on to board reports. LJ, you got anything?
I do not today.
I don't have anything.
Wake up in here. Okay, Mary, you got anything? There's none. And I don't really have anything either. Moving on to new business. Discussion possible action item, request for approval to proceed with selection and implementation of collection software and camera system. Who's this?
So, our contract, for the last 3 years, we've been, utilizing Motive. They gave me some numbers. So we've been paying a monthly fee for the services they provided, so their cameras. Initially they were, front, we did add some rear cameras in. And it provides, very basic kind of maintenance thing that goes along with them, as well as a GPS tracker that basically monitors the vehicle, monitors whether it's idle, whether it's running. It can do some fuel analysis. We get warnings when trucks idle too long, so we can, you either need to shut it off or move it along, kind of thing. So that contract came up. We really wanted to expand it. It's been a huge tool in trying to verify, obvious things. Did we pick it up? Customers calling, well, we got a picture. It was, you can see it up in your driveway, kind of thing. So it verifies, also keeps our drivers honest on what they're doing. We initially talked to Motive about expanding that, and they have, better technology where they have 360 cameras. A lot of times just having the front and the back, didn't really give us that full view. So Motive came back with a quote, that was, and at that time, we actually went out and we looked at some other companies. The two contenders were basically a company called Samsara and Motive. Samsara sent us test cameras and stuff. And initially, Samsara and Motive were about the same cost. It's the whole cost of the project was, or for the contract, was about $87,000. They were both about the same. Motive came back and actually redid theirs for $69,000. I'm asking the board to actually go with the Samsara company for the $86,810.40 for the 3 years. And the reason was, so we were paying Motive $998, so basically $1,000 a month. Their new lower bid comes in about $1,900, so $2,000 a month. So with the upgraded software, Motive was about $2,000 a month. Samsara is going to be $2,400 and some change, so round up to $2,500 a month is what it's going to cost us. The difference between Samsara and Motive is that Samsara is way more interactive. They have the cameras so that the driver can actually view all of their cameras as well. It's got warning systems where if they're close, collision alert type things. It does have AI features on the in camera things that even the one that we were running as a tester, we found drivers using their phone, smoking in vehicles, just things that, you know, that aren't acceptable here, really. I mean, we want to be flexible and take care of our drivers, but there's also a line that's not acceptable to cross.
Correct.
The other thing that it affords us is a more robust maintenance package. We can write work orders through it, we can track, and the hopes would be then to track each vehicle and the cost of each vehicle. Then we can pull better data, you know, like, hey, this vehicle is right now, we just kind of group everything together, and we don't really have a way to track each individual vehicle. So this will afford us the cost per vehicle so that we can make better, you know, cost analysis versus the repair and maintenance on a vehicle versus, you know, making payments on a newer vehicle. Just basically better data points. It affords Levi being the fleet maintenance, he can create so the driver can go in there, fill things on the pre-trip, he gets it, he can make work orders for the mechanics, and they can follow that workflow, and there's documentation of the workflow.
That's awesome.
And I can't just the fact that renting these two vehicles has afforded us to be able to tackle everything else. Like, we're really getting, and I have to be careful to say this, you know, things.
I just
Yeah, I just want to say it, you know, a better handle on things, but this will even streamline things more, because it's like, we just got in this habit of like, you know, oh, this one's about due for maintenance. I mean, they track hours and stuff, but there's no system in place to really, you know, let us know. And that's the key to making these vehicles go from 5 years to 7 years. Take care of them and have the tools. So that's why I would like to go forward with the Samsara.
Okay, and any questions or a motion?
I really like your selling point of the maintenance package.
Yeah, absolutely.
Big I am on that, how much I watch your guys' costs on that. That's
Yeah.
huge.
And obviously that's something that's never gonna go away, but I feel like even lately, a lot of our repair and maintenance costs are bigger high-end items that we couldn't necessarily afford. And if we can dial in some of those little ones that could have, you know, been taken care of when it was a smaller rather than grow bigger, that's when that really comes into play.
Absolutely, catch it early.
Yeah, yes,
I will not forget about that.
What would be the implementation timeline, or if,
well,
Good question.
I told them if they pass it, it needs to be done by the time I get back. So pretty unrealistic. So the timing's actually good right now. So we have kind of the test cameras on the rentals. So we can utilize those as kind of frontline, and then work on the other frontline trucks, get them up and going. Unfortunately, we basically have two fleets right now. And I had mentioned this, you know, earlier this year, that's not in a position you want to be. You don't want to have your backups be half of the amount of trucks you run, because every time you bring up a backup, then you're fixing that one as well. So right now we have enough trucks to be able to kind of pull trucks out and get them implemented. And I did make a point that I think that Motive, we've been going Motive month to month, and I think the Motive contract goes up in November 8th. So we're going to want to try to get as many of those done as possible on the frontline trucks. And the other thing is I'm going to actually dial this number back a little bit. This was for our entire fleet. I'm going to pull trucks out of the rotation that aren't going to be allowed, even if I have to physically park them in another location so they're not accessible. Obviously I won't completely disappear them, but just to, and so those we won't put cameras and stuff there.
Sure.
The hopes would be that we're getting a handle on our trucks and we can get in this replacement schedule and we're not, you know, just facing these crises like we have over the last few years. So the cost will go down a little bit. So this is a cost of the majority of our fleet.
So Samsara. wanna go first?
I was gonna ask about what we should say for the motion.
I got one more question
good.
first. So I just put motive on my stuff and I had to wait 3 months for their 360 cameras. So with knowing that they were on back order, does Samsara have all their equipment available to ship to you to make your deadline?
Most of it, in fact, actually Motive told us they weren't even available yet. There's 360 cameras. So if you have,
Why? They just came in.
okay,
So they're
yeah.
in my lobby.
Because they were, I know when we first kind of went out to bid, they were, you know, well, this is something that we're going to, and I just had flashbacks of AMCS. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of these, like even Routeware, oh yeah, this is something that we're gonna do, like, we don't want to get involved in what you're gonna do, we're not
Yeah.
that big.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's,
That's why I bring that up, because they literally just arrived, I think, maybe 4 or 5 days ago.
so,
But if they haven't,
and it was a discussion too, that we can get a majority of the cameras on there, even if they couldn't complete, because there was some little catch in there too, but obviously the salesman likes to gloss over. But there was a guarantee that we could get up and running, get the system up and running. We might not have the full 360.
that means discount in my eyes.
Is what?
A discount in my eyes, if you.
They're giving us months free up until that point.
Okay.
To where we get the full complete. I think they already threw in 2 months free to give us time to get everything implemented. And again, just the discussions, yeah, if they can't provide, then the opposite.
That's all I have now.
So
I'll send our Motive sales guy your way. He calls us like 5 times a day. So,
Yeah, give him that.
so we wanna do a motion? Ready for that?
We do need a motion for it.
So, 3 years, right?
oh gosh, I should have done that. Did you do recommended motions on this?
Shoot.
Oh,
But yeah, thank you.
Hey,
I don't like to include them because it's public facing, like
Yes.
I don't include it in the packet, but it's about
alright.
There you go.
I move to approve the district to proceed with the purchase and implementation of the Samsara software and camera system. You
Awesome.
did amount in a period on there?
I mean, here's the amount if you want to throw it in at the next one.
For up to $86,810.40 over 36 months.
Great.
I'll second.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Thanks, LJ. Show of hands, all in favor? Okay, what opposed? Okay, thanks, Chris. Fee schedules for 2026.
This will be just real brief. As I've experienced our fee schedules over the last year, there are non-consistent, a lot of illogic. Kind of, I don't know where we came up with the numbers. To me, a lot of these numbers don't make sense. So we're not gonna necessarily raise any prices. We're just gonna make things a little bit more standardized so they make sense.
Okay.
We're gonna do little things that might be a slight increase where we're gonna probably get rid of like the extra container discounts and stuff, just so billing can kind of go smoother. There's just like if you look at like our frequencies and the size of the containers, they don't really, I'm not sure where the numbers came from. I mean, I think this was last year at some point or whatever. I mean, how we got here doesn't matter. But so when we go for the public hearing to vote on our budget, we'll also be thrown in a fee schedule.
Okay, And I don't know the numbers really well for the commercial dumpsters, but I do, one of the intents. Which I appreciated was, trying to push people towards, through pricing, towards bigger containers less frequently. Which just, and so I know that the numbers looked odd,
No,
there was the intention.
sure, and that's knowledge that I wasn't involved in a lot of.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
technical stuff. And so, and we are, Savannah's got a kind of list of things like there's containers that we don't even have pricing for.
Oh, wow.
So we just default to the lower container.
Got it.
And like if there's things like that, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that, obviously we want to keep things like that if there was some intent behind some of these numbers.
Sure.
It's just over this last year, I've been brought to, this doesn't, and we need to
Oh, I
look at
bet.
this.
Yeah,
So I
there's
think
lots of
just
that.
kind of standardizing. Savannah's really familiar with all the pricing and stuff, so like she's gonna be doing a lot of the work, and this is just to help her support her and the CSRs and trying to, have a little bit more consistent pricing structure.
Great. And I don't know how people are to that fee structure for the next many years, but putting on my city hat, I do hope that at some point, we're having the conversation of, okay, when are we charging enough and don't have to keep raising this, and it's I think we're in that, like, it feels like a little bit of a limbo as we're, improving systems and bringing in the equipment that we need to actually do those improvements. But I agree with the raising of the residential in the city this year. I came around to that, but in the future, I do hope that we're looking at that as like that.
Well,
Yeah.
you should be able to justify the cost, like, okay, this is what
Yeah.
our cost is to go pick up this container. And I mean, this really honestly even ties back to the whole Moab and the transfer station. If we can get ahead of this and we can step up and be able to incorporate it, we're not gonna be put in a position where all of a sudden we're gonna just have to
go
raise
through
prices up
exactly.
where we start some kind of rebellion in trying to pay for something because we hadn't planned for it over the years.
Right.
That's really what we should be doing, is making sure that these pricing increases are directly, relevant to the services that we provide and the infrastructure that we have to invest in and to provide the services.
Absolutely.
And yeah, if we're having conversation with residents, whether it's, actual residents or city managers or elected officials, we should be able to justify with actual factual operational costs.
Yes.
I mean, and I've started, trying to work through some of that. In so much as like it costs us $25,000 a day to run the district, $3,000 an hour. I mean, those are kind of rough estimates, but then we calculate how much volumes flows through here. Where it gets a little bit complicated is our handling, it comes to the transfer station and then it goes out to the landfill. So we have to include both of those operational costs, but we should be able to get right back to what the, assumed cost to pick up that 196 gallon.
Absolutely.
And I think the more that we can justify it, then we have an easier conversation when we do have to raise rates, right? Rather than just, ooh, that number looks good.
And that's a little bit what it feels like now, but
Yeah,
it's understandable.
Yeah, and I think that's the point that we actually came from.
Yeah.
Was that our budget was lacking, and so
Yes.
we raised prices by a percentage to meet the budget without really justifying operational costs. It was just a need. Obviously our bond being the driving component behind that. We had to meet our bond payment.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Chris. Okay, any other questions on this discussion item?
So I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. You're just kind of adjusting some line items. We don't see an actual increase in our fee schedule.
And honestly, to Colin's point, I think that we need to be able to justify our fee increases in the future. This is just, would it be just to standardize some different things, to add in some things that were
Clean it up a little bit.
clean it up.
I like that because it's like 6 pages. So
Yeah, that's another project.
Just the different
I'm sure it
service
is.
areas.
I cleaned up the other facilities.
Yes, it's, we are
I don't touch
working.
roll offs or cars.
But yeah, that's another project that we will, yeah, it's on the priority list, is a little down there because it is, if you walk in there and you have no idea. When you walk in our front door, we got like it's a 4 or 5 foot section of papers. Of all of our different facilities and all the different services we provide, and there is no way. Yeah,
See if you
yeah.
can read it, you know,
It is, it is, really. Some of it, it's like 0.2 and it's like, ouch.
Oh, that's the extra fee.
I mean,
Well, and it's hard because like there are some containers that are still out there that there's only like 1 or 2 of them. But you still have to list that price, so.
yeah, simplifying the actual fee schedule, that is something I would love to do. I think that, and then we'll know if it's a success because we'll grab somebody that has no idea and they'll put them in with the price fee schedule. We'll throw different waste streams at them. Okay, look up this price. If they can do it, then they'll have succeeded.
That's a good test analogy.
Okay. Chris, thank you. Another discussion item, 2026 budget.
I guess I'll start this and then I'll turn, this over obviously to Nick and Lily if they want to add in here. I just put that on here is obviously we're starting our budget season. We want to pair, this with our strategic management plan so we know where all the money's going, what our intent is. And that can be public facing, so the public should know where their money's going. The stage that I feel like we're in is I'm just kind of throwing everything at Nick and, kind of waiting to see. And then obviously we'll start to trim down to try to fit it in a budget. I'm kind of expecting the November meeting to be a little bit more in depth as we start to, get down into the granular level. And then obviously in December, we have the public hearing and then we vote on that budget. I did ask the county for $500,000 this year in TRT. I know that TRT is down, so I'm not sure. I did not hear from the county. Usually they reach out and ask for like presentations. I have been watching their budget meetings. It seems like they're kind of changing things up this year on how they're kind of approaching things. I know they had it's the Moab Tours Advisory Board meeting last night, and they're the ones that send the recommendation to the county. And it looks like they just basically lumped all because we fall under in the TRT, it's the 3D line, I believe, under mitigation where we get access to those funds. So maybe they're kind of waiting until that gets their county commission goes through that and they'll reach out to us, or maybe they already have it and made up.
I wonder too how the Prop 13 vote affects.
Well, and that was, I guess my thinking without understanding what's really going on, countywide and all their component units and everything else is, if there's funding and they're getting funded from TRT, that might be able to open us up to be available to more funds. And I did earmark some of the funds to go into an account that we would match, that would be a future reserve for our expansion next door, right? That's kind of all I had. I just was I put that on the agenda just so that we can have a discussion about, because it's everyone's favorite time of year. Talking numbers and debt obligations, and I find it exciting though, because it brings on next year. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Lily or Nick, either one,
Just
do you
to-
want to add anything?
Yeah, just to kind of give a 10,000-foot view, the way the district operates, we want to, the way I set up the budget is that I have a series of lines that show me kind of what the cash flow will be. And that's the critical number in terms of your revenue, which is your collection and your landfill fees that you generate. then minus your expenses. And then that gives you a kind of a cash flow number that I can look at, and that's the number that needs to be adequate enough to cover the bond expense, cover fixed assets to the extent that you're going to be paying cash or for them if you're being financed, and then there's a debt component. So there's a debt service component. So that cash flow number, we want to be able to be at a level that we were covering those bond payments, covering asset purchases and any related debt service to asset purchases. So like Chris had mentioned, the $1.1 million piece of equipment, that'd be a fixed asset, which we would essentially finance. So it'd be on the capital schedule at 1.1 million, but then there would be debt service over that 10 years of I believe you said 144,000 a year. So the capital number is 1.1 million, but the actual cash going out the door is going to be 144,000 a year. So looking at the relationships of some of those items in relation to what we're hoping the district is going to generate in cash flow, making sure that we're adequately covered for those expenses. Again, the trucks, any equipment, containers or billing system, the Samsara cost, which would be an expense generally if it's coming out that way. So building the budget, you're crafting it and looking at it, and you're going back and maybe reducing some expenses in this area and needing to increase expenses in another. Again, going back to labor being a big portion of the overall expense of the district, how that plays into looking at it year over year in relation to permanent staff and temporary labor. There's a relationship there because those may be people that come onto the district as permanent labor. So there's always a relationship there. So again, looking at all the components of the budget and then crafting something that is reasonable and will suffice in terms of covering the debt service that we have and any set-asides for future equipment down the road. Like Chris had mentioned, the facility, we want to set aside some money for that. And so that'd be an ongoing thing over a series of, a couple of years. So we get started on that, have those monies set aside, but that needs to be covered by what the district cash flow would be.
Thanks, Nick. Any
So
questions?
if there's just one more thing, if there's any other items you can think of that you want me to incorporate, I know I have a list of things that Chris and I and Lily have talked about. So if there's other things that come up, let me know and I can incorporate those. A lot of that's going to be probably capital related, but if there is an expense that's going to be coming on next year that we don't have this year, just let me know.
Yeah, and I'll be available, partially, I'll be trying to communicate with you over the next, while I'm going through email. Because I think by stepping away a little bit, I'll be able to kind of,
Yeah.
get a higher level picture too, and I can kind of send these things to Nick. So I guess that's kind of the hope, is to have, I guess, the rough draft ready in November.
Right.
And then trim down for December.
Great. Okay. Anything else? Okay, thank you. Discussion, possible action item, request to change the staff designation of the district clerk.
So just in realigning kind of people roles. I know for the longest time, the program manager position was more of like, you don't know what to do with it, so we just dumped things on the program manager. Thank you, Jessica, for being
catch-all.
willing to be dumped on. But in just trying to realign some roles, and I think that the district clerk lines a lot of things that kind of fall under Lily's purview. anyways, but this is something that's is actually a task that's assigned to the board, and then the board assigns it to a staff member. So this isn't something that I can change. This is something that the board would have to change. So, yeah, that was my recommendation to the board, that they switch the district clerk position from Jessica to Lily, the administrative coordinator position.
Or if you want to specific, whoever's gonna make the motion, specifically state from the program manager to the
Yeah.
administrative,
Thank you.
so we don't have actual people's names.
Yeah,
attached to
that's,
it.
I was alluding to
Yeah.
that. Thank you for clarifying.
Well, it's just like whoever makes the motion, because I wasn't sure if it's,
Is that
In
motion?
there, yeah,
okay,
the last,
Okay.
but the item. Things got rearranged on the agenda, but I didn't update the item, so it's the wrong item number, but the bottom one.
Does somebody want to make that motion, or do we have more questions?
I don't have any more questions, so I can make a motion. I move to approve the reclassification of the district clerk position and designate the responsibilities to fall under the administrative coordinator.
Thanks, LJ. Okay, all in favor?
Can I?
That does make a lot of sense.
Yes, please.
When does this take effect? Like, I assume we're gonna need some sort of like transition timeline, like, are you good? Does this have to like take effect right now, or are you good doing the minutes?
Right now, we're cutting it off.
Just like, there's just things we haven't discussed internally.
I had a feeling, so I've been taking notes.
Well, we
We can
could
talk more later.
restructure that motion and add that it will take after a transition period if we need to.
If you all are comfortable with transition period. Yeah. And I think there's also some, even like grandma, if someone's on vacation is not an excuse to delay giving records, so I think it would be good to have some redundancy.
Mhm.
Okay, that was fun.
Yeah, no, good question. Okay. Moving on to insurance and health benefits for 2026.
I guess I already kind of preempted, talked about this in my thing. That was kind of what I brought up. I know, Lily's been kind of doing a lot of comparisons. We looked at some different options. I know Lily even reached out to the county and seen if it was an option, or maybe even going back under the county under, Cigna. I guess their response.
It would have to go to the commission. And we were asking for like not 2026, but 2027, and they're like, go to the commission. So I don't know if that is an option, especially, if I may, just as the district is kind of establishing. We are a component and we're not, so I don't know if we want to necessarily like realign in that sort of like staff subordinate position with the county.
I think it added to some of the confusion of a lot of people assuming that we were part of the county. And to continue to like align that way, I would bring that confusion again, so.
Just as things increase, if I may, like our current insurance that we're on, it's a 6.5% increase. The current network excludes all the Intermountain hospitals, which is unfortunate. If you want to go for the preferred network, which is every hospital in Utah, it would be a 44% increase, which is not realistic. But giving staff the choice to choose between Intermountain or U of U, between the two different networks, it's a 9.6% increase. So that is what we were looking at. There are just staff that have to choose, and to just automatically have Intermountain as not an option, definitely affects people. So we've just been looking at numbers, but it would be nice, when we're hiring people or just even interviewing people, to say, we'll cover an individual with the high deductible plan 100%. Everything is scaled off of that. So we would still offer the high deductible and the traditional plan. If it's employee with the high deductible covered at 100%. If they chose the traditional plan, it would just be that same dollar amount the district pays. So they would then be paying 3%. If they had a two-party, it would be 5% for the high deductible plan, 14% for the traditional, just because the traditional is so much more expensive. And with a family, it'd be a 10% employee contribution. And for the traditional plan, it would be 19%, which is not far off. They're currently paying with the traditional plan 20%. So it'd also be a way to kind of give staff, increase their take home without giving a raise. is what we had been looking at. And dental and vision are so inexpensive. But I had put in some numbers on if we just those completely, they're pretty low, like the vision is. Compared to it, it's gonna be like for a family, it's $13. So it's not much.
The county's actually considered DHP.
Okay, because that was another thing is people have been. Just that we're so close to Grand Junction, PEHP kind of limits some of our options. So routine PEHP. Oh, do they? Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
every school district does too.
If I remember correctly, they were getting a 14% increase with Cigna.
Okay.
So they went out and got close to PHP, so they're heavily considering switching over to that.
I mean, I've been happy with PEHP.
Segregating.
And just our contact at PHP has been great. He's been so helpful. But yeah, just some numbers. It would just be nice to say instead of like you pay a percentage, because right now it's like 11% for some plans and 12% for others. It should be like if it's just you, we'll cover you. You know, if it's +1, it's 5%. If it's a family.
Are you guys, when Chris was talking about it, I mean, it sounded like you're changing the portion you pay for the family plans. Is that true or not true?
We would, yeah, so what we were looking at, so currently with the high deductible plan, staff for the, I mean, it's like and point, so it's rounded here for the individual, they're contributing 12%. For the two party, it's 11, and for the family, it's 12%. So this would again drop it down to like, for the high deductible plan, it's just covered, which is about $750 a month.
Right.
For the, I can get you the. The two party would cost just over $1,400 a month, and the family is just under $1,800. So is what the district would be paying into those, if this is proposed, if we do that. It's hard to explain for someone. Do you want me to fix that sheet?
No, that's all right, but you'd still be contributing more to the people that do it for the family. So we just-
Incorrect. We'd be doing 100% for the individual, 95% for two party, and only 90% for the family. So people with the family have to pay more.
So we'll see an increase.
No, it's actually less than what they're paying, because at just 10%, they'll see
Oh, I
a
see.
5% reduction. So right now for the
Because the
family plan,
employees getting covered.
Oh, I see.
yeah, right now the family plan is about $210 a month, and with this, it would just be $199. So you get 10 more percent. Good enough.
Okay. I mean, it seems good to attract employees to be able to provide good benefits.
It definitely helped my decision when I was first applied here.
Yeah.
I mean, that was part of the perks. I took a huge pay cut. To start here, but I was trying to, getting older, I was trying to think of my future and stuff. Obviously, between the URS investment into our employees, and then, they were saying that we paid in their full benefits where I was working for quite a bit for my benefits. So it's like, well, balances a little bit, so they did help me cross that line. So, and I remember when we started, and I understand, it's a budgetary thing to try to, have the employees contribute. But to me, it all scales because a lot of the people that work here, they don't look at anything other than what they're taking on. Like, and that's
Right.
just if, and when we're interviewing people, if we cover, that, I think that was kind of the intent, and obviously trying to support. I mean, I know we say a lot that our employees and staff are our number one asset here, and I think trying to do things that physically show that we support our is a good thing.
The only thing I'd add to this is, I did ask for a quote for short-term disability insurance. We do currently provide long-term disability insurance. At least in my time, no one has been able to utilize the long-term disability, but there have been instances where short-term disability would have really bridged the gap and made a difference for staff members. The prices are pretty comparable. I don't know if we want to look at adding an additional insurance or trying to, removing long-term and just having short-term take that in the budget for next year. It would be about $10,000 a year, so not a huge amount. But I thought that could be more relevant one of the things we were discussing with the handbook was like a parental leave policy, but short-term disability, at least for women, could take that place if they, not for adoptions, but if they did. Want to. So, I don't know, some food for thought, just,
Yeah.
it's kind of the show.
Got it. Okay, any other questions?
No questions, just a comment that I know that, long ago, looking at all the different options, I was told by one of the people that I talked to that that they would never work for a company that didn't offer long-term disability.
Are you serious? That
Yeah.
was just an applicant here?
No, that was one of the brokers that I worked with. When I was trying to decide whether or not it was important to carry it.
Oh, okay, so it may be looking at a supplemental. PEHP does not offer a short-term disability, so it'd be going outside of PEHP's umbrella.
Okay. Future considerations, November ACB meeting scheduled for Wednesday, November 19th, 2025 at 4:30 PM. Does that work for folks?
I will be on site at the compost training.
Okay.
I'm thinking that we talked about maybe seeing if we can adjust, the time. But honestly, like if we put it a week later, that's Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's gonna really support that, and I also don't wanna cut short because we have work to do before the
Absolutely, the
budget,
budget,
so I
yeah.
think. Me just trying to zoom in for that meeting makes more sense than trying to, accommodate the board to try to change.
Could we move it just one day to the 20th?
We're gonna be gone that
Oh.
entire week.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Okay. Okay, any other comments on that? Okay, no closed session is needed. Okay, so then I will go ahead and adjourn this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.